When Jeremy transferred to Hollow Creek High, all he wanted was a clean slate. The town was small, remote, and surrounded by woods that always looked too dark, no matter the time of day. His new room in the school dormitory was on the 3rd floor, room 313. The key was handed to him by the warden with a pause, a glance, and a half-swallowed "good luck." Jeremy didn't think much of it. He was used to the weirdness of small towns. But during dinner that night, a wiry kid named Austin slid into the seat next to him in the cafeteria and asked, "Did you say you got 313? Jeremy nodded through a mouthful of mashed potatoes. "Dude, that's the room, the suicide room." Another kid leaned in. 7 years ago, guy named Caleb hung himself from the ceiling fan, left no note. Creepy thing is, he was just like you. Jeremy blinked. "What do you mean?" "Tall, quiet, new in town, transferred in the fall, same build, same messy hair." He grinned. "Maybe it's fate."
Jeremy laughed it off. Urban legends. Every school had one. That night, though, the room felt colder than it should have been. He turned off the light and climbed into bed, ignoring the groaning pipes and faint rustle outside his window. As he started to doze, a soft whisper tickled his ear. "You made it back." He shot upright. Nothing. No one. Just his breath fogging in the air. The next morning, Jeremy tried to forget the incident. Maybe it was a dream, or one of the guys screwing with him. But unease gnawed at his chest, especially when he opened his closet and found a small, dusty telescope tucked in the corner. It didn't belong to him. That afternoon during study hall, he brought it up to Austin. "There was a telescope in my closet. Looks really old." Austin went pale. "What did you say?" "There's a telescope in my room, like an old one, brass, weird etchings." Austin leaned closer. "That's not funny. I'm not joking. Caleb had one. He found it in the graveyard behind the school. Said it showed him things no one else could see." Jeremy paused. "What kind of things?" "Shadows. People who weren't there." He said it whispered to him. That night, curiosity got the best of him. He pulled the telescope out, brushed off the dust, and aimed it through the window toward the woods. Nothing. Then, movement. A flicker. A tall, human-like figure standing just beyond the tree line. Still. Watching. Jeremy lowered the telescope. The window was empty. He looked again through the lens. The figure was closer. He dropped the telescope. A loud bang echoed through the hallway outside. Jeremy jumped and rushed to open the door. No one was there. The next day, VJ, one of Austin's friends, made Jeremy an offer. "Bet you $100 you won't go to the graveyard and bring back a flower from under the big bobble tree." Jeremy scoffed. "That's easy. You have to go after midnight." Still, Jeremy shrugged. "Deal." But as night fell, something inside him twisted. He couldn't sleep, couldn't even think, so he made a plan. He asked VJ to go first, to prove he wasn't bluffing. VJ laughed. "Fine. Watch and learn." At midnight, VJ snuck past the dorm gates, scaled the wall behind the gym, and landed on the edge of the old cemetery. Jeremy watched from a distance. As VJ vanished into the darkness, the wind picked up. 10 minutes passed, then 20. No sound. Jeremy crept closer, staying low. He reached the boundary of the graveyard and called out, "VJ?" No answer. Then he heard it. A scream. Choked. Brief. He ran and never looked back. Jeremy couldn't sleep. Even after he ran, even after he told Austin what he'd seen, or rather hadn't seen. VJ had simply vanished. No sound, no scream anymore. Just a sudden coldness in the air, and that same shadowy figure standing beneath the tree, visible only through the telescope. By morning, the news had spread through the dorm. VJ was missing. The teachers interviewed everyone, and Jeremy kept his mouth shut. He didn't mention the graveyard, didn't mention the dare, definitely didn't mention the telescope. But the guilt gnawed at him. That evening, Jeremy sat on his bed, staring at the brass telescope again. He hadn't touched it since the night before. It seemed to hum with a faint vibration, almost like it was waiting. Against his better judgment, he peered through it once more, and this time he wasn't looking at the forest. He turned it toward the hallway through the open crack of his dorm door. He saw shadows where there were none, footprints that weren't wet but still marked the floor. And standing near the stairwell was VJ, his body limp, his head tilted unnaturally to the side. But his eyes were open, and he was smiling. Jeremy blinked and yanked the telescope away. The hallway was empty, but a faint knock came from down the corridor.
1, 2, 3. Then silence. The next day, a substitute teacher arrived for Mr. Carter, their regular history teacher. No explanation. Some said he was sick. Others claimed he had quit after discovering something in the records room. No one could say for sure. But Jeremy was starting to see a pattern. People vanished, or changed, and always around room 313. That night, he decided to find answers. He snuck into the records room just before midnight. The campus was eerily quiet, save for the creaks of old pipes and the occasional hoot of an owl. He flipped through dusty archives until he found the student file for Caleb Dunham. Suicide. Room 313. The report mentioned psychotic episodes, drawings of figures in trees, and one final note scribbled at the bottom in pencil. It doesn't show stars, it shows who's next. Jeremy froze. The telescope. He ran back to his room. The telescope was no longer on the shelf. He found it lying on his bed, aimed toward the window, as if it had moved itself. He didn't want to touch it again, but something made him. Some pull in his chest, like it was waiting for him to look. He brought it to his eye. This time he saw the dorm building, his own floor, room by room. Inside each one, students sleeping peacefully, all except one. His room. Through the telescope, his bed was empty. But something else was there, something hunched, watching the door, breathing. Jeremy turned slowly. The room was empty. He lowered the telescope again. Now the figure was standing behind his own reflection in the window. That night, Jeremy didn't sleep. He sat on the floor, flashlight in one hand, the telescope locked in his desk drawer. At 3:13 a.m., he heard scratching at the walls, first faint, then louder, as if someone or something was inside the wall trying to claw its way out. He fled the room at dawn. He found Austin at breakfast and demanded answers. Austin looked exhausted. "You shouldn't have used the telescope." "What is it?" Jeremy asked. "Why does it show me these things?" Austin hesitated. "It's not a telescope. It's a key." "To what?" Austin glanced around. When Caleb died, people thought he snapped, but he said he saw something through that lens. A gate, not to the stars, to the other side. And once it knows you can see it, what? It watches back. That evening, Jeremy packed a duffel bag and made a decision. He was going to bury the telescope, far away, maybe even toss it in the river that ran beyond the cemetery. But when he stepped outside, he realized the campus had changed. The trees looked taller, the air was wrong, and the moon. There were 2 moons in the sky. That's when he understood. He never left the room, he never left the telescope. And now, whatever was behind the lens had stepped through. When they found room 313 the next morning, it was empty. Jeremy's bed was made. His things were neatly stacked. The drawer was open. The telescope was gone.
All that remained was a set of fresh footprints leading toward the window, and the glass was cracked in the exact shape of an eye.